Finally taking a look at this Japanese hardware store hatchet. It wasn't hung straight, and you're supposed to redo them yourself anyway. You're supposed to finish them yourself, so I'm just trying to get this step wedge, or what I thought was a step wedge, out right now. But more importantly, I've left notes all across the city that say something like this: if you find it, you will receive $1 million. And I just got cameras at those locations, and I'm watching a lot of people be excited for no reason, because there's no $1 million. But I like to leave mysterious shit like that where you think something good might happen. It gives people
That's not even
hope.
a step wedge. They just put a little fucking triangle in there, a sharp triangle. It's not a step wedge. That was how this was fitted to this handle. That's nuts. Let's see if it comes out. I mean, there's no wooden wedge in it. I don't see why it's not going to just come out. Wow, why is it not coming out? Huh. What's going on here, guys? It's not a lot of space in there. It's interesting. All right. There we go. So first things first, we got to get rid of that sharp eye. That's really incredibly sharp. Really terrible job. If you're supposed to finish these Japanese hatchets, don't skip this step. Very important. Watch out though, this bit is sharp. Gotta be really careful with this bit.
In the music industry, we call this chamfering.
Okay,
And in the axe industry, we also call this chamfering.
See if I could point it so you guys can see it this time. That's not gonna work. That might work. Yeah.
The reason why we do this, the reason why we smooth out the very edge of the bottom of the eye, which is the hole in the axe head, is because it digs into the wood. And what happens is the axe head can't go down anymore, so it kind of just crushes and lifts and tears wood fibers, and then it'll go back upwards because it's loose, and it go back down. So the shelf gets bigger and bigger. We call it a shelf. Here it is right here.
Not really. As you can see, the handle doesn't really dig into that. It digs into the back, the front sides, a little bit here. Just with what I did right there, we might be able to put this back together. Wow, what is going on here? I think this is the right way. That downward slope doesn't make sense this way.
So you can see why I'm confused. I'm used to American handles, and the shoulder of the handle is actually towards the front of the eye here.
Did they do this? crack this handle. That's how they cracked it. Spreading it like that put a big crack in it. That's why I always believe you should put your wedges in. If you're putting a metal step wedge in, put it parallel to your wooden wedge. Wow, they really screwed this up. I guess I can kind of hit it down with a hammer. Let's see.
Maybe I should kind of rethink my thoughts on that, what I didn't think was a step wedge. I mean, it was pretty thick, and it had that angle, almost like it was a wedge, like a really wide wedge, but thin. So it did a lot of movement on this wood, but, you know, I think it was put in the wrong way, personally. Should have been parallel to the sides of the eye. Or, like I described earlier, parallel to the wedge, the wooden wedge that you'd put in. You can sneak it in right beside where the wedge and the handle tongue, which is the wood sticking up through the hole. Yeah, you can stick it in between those two things, the handle and the wedge, but parallel.
Yep. So I do gotta shape the handle a tiny bit. Get rid of some of this. Ooh, that crushed some of the fibers and peeled some of the sticker.
So this is that drift I made earlier in the video with the hewing hatchet. This is a piece of hickory, so it'll last a while. I've found the hickory drifts are, you know, pretty valuable. You don't need to buy a special piece of metal. Just shape a piece of wood. Since the shape of the eye is kind of rectangular, I have to be very careful not to round these faces. I'm having trouble with that. It's kind of my instinct to round it. So a lot of what I was doing right there was just removing the shelf that the sharp eye has already made, because it kind of continues to tear it out if I don't. Looking back on this hatchet, now that I've already done this, that head really did want to stay on. That wood was very tight at the top and the bottom. I mean, there was a shelf on the handle, but I mean it was tight tolerances. Just had a sharp eye. So even before I kind of did this, it was staying put. It's just, you know, you can ruin a handle with a shelf, and it can break easier. Even though it's a hatchet, I do kind of throw it around I'm pretty rough with it because it's for carving. So I didn't actually wedge this at the end of the video. I don't wedge this. I just go, wow, that's very tight. I just, you'll see. I just bang it on, and then I try it out. It was tilted towards that side. I mark the bottom of that end, and that's where I need to remove material below that mark, or at and below that mark. And then the other side, I hit the top of the tongue. So bottom of the tongue on the side it's tilted towards, and top of the tongue on the side that it's not tilted towards. And that kind of diagonal I don't know if it's technique, that diagonal removal on diagonal sides, that's how you correct a bit that's not on straight.
I can use this thing without a wedge now. It was so tight. I did loosen it up at the top a little bit, but that's just for when I actually put a wooden wedge in it. Oh, wow. Now that it's on straight, wow, this is quite the tool. I'm pretty impressed. This is hickory. This is hard wood. It's very hard wood. And this is pretty wide face for this edge. More than half as wide. So let's try the flat face. This will be harder to cut than that other face. It's kind of bouncing off. So, but that's to be expected for such a wide, hard face. Trying to take decent cuts, not that aggressive. Whoops, see that? Huge cross cut.